The Federalist Party believed that the government could use all powers except those specifically denied by the Constitution. This led to the establishment of the First National Bank, which was led by Alexander Hamilton, who served as the first United States Secretary of Treasury. Before the National Bank was established, each state had about 1,500 banks and other financial systems, according to the National Bank Act. Hamilton then proposed the establishment of a national bank. He argued that it would strengthen the government, provide economic growth, and pay off war debts. Section 23 of the National Bank Act stated, "In such manner as to make them obligatory promissory notes payable on demand at its place of business, such association is hereby authorized to issue and circulate the same as money, and all the same shall be received at par in all parts of the United States in payment of taxes, excise, public lands, and all other dues to the United States." This essentially means that state banknotes were driven out of circulation, which established a national currency. The first national bank of our country was a basis for the future of our country's banking system.
The Jay Treaty, also known as the Treaty of Amity, was created in 1794 in order to help the relationship with the United States and Great Britain. Its creation helped avert yet another war between the two countries, resolve remaining issues from the Treaty of Paris, and brought about peaceful trade between the two countries for 10 years. Alexander Hamilton of the Federalist Party was the main designer of the treaty, and he shared American bargaining strategies with the British. Once the treaty was designed, George Washington sent John Jay of the Federalist Party to London to deliver the treaty. The document stated that the British must evacuate the Northwest forts, and they must pay for all damage done to the ships. The British agreed to these terms, but did not agree to stop the impressment of American vessels in the future. The United States agreed to pay off all debts still owed to British merchants. Alexander Hamilton, along with James Madison, were the chief editors and authors of the Federalist Papers, which was written about various aspects and ideas from the Federalist Party. Within the Federalist number 64, it spoke about the Jay Treaty, and it stated, "The power of making treaties is an important one, especially as it relates to war, peace, and commerce." This shows that for the Jay Treaty, the Federalists were including the most important issues for the nation and its people. Another primary source was Washington's message on the Jay Treaty. Washington talks about how he submitted the treaty to Senate, but they requested the removal of one clause. He sent it to Britain without the removal, and they also agreed with the removal of the same clause, but Washington did not remove the clause.
The federal government of the United States was in enormous debt following the Revolutionary War against England. As the Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton was in charge of tackling the country's financial problems. It was determined that indirect taxes on both imported and domestic commodities would bring in the most revenue. A tax specifically on distilled spirits, most commonly at the time was whiskey, Hamilton proposed that the said duties on spirits distilled within the United States shall be collected under the management of the supervisors of the revenue. Congress passed his proposal, and it became a law in 1791. Opposition to the new tax arose and came in the form of small farmers from West Philadelphia who the tax was affecting. They protested by tarring and feathering tax collectors and burning the barns or homes of those who supported the tax. George Washington blamed groups known as the Democratic Societies for leading the rebellion. When addressing the resistance of these societies, Hamilton declared it urgent to press forward the forces destined to act against the insurgents with all possible activity and energy. Militiamen were sent under the command of Hamilton to suppress the rebellion, in which they did so successfully, proving the new government was strong enough to put down rebellions.
Next are the Alien and Sedition Acts. This was a series of laws passed during the presidency of John Adams from the Federalist Congress at the end of the 18th century. These acts sought to restrict public activities of political radicals who sympathized with the French Revolution, including new powers to deport foreigners, as well as making it harder for new immigrants to vote. These acts were mainly created to give the government a form of control. According to the Alien Acts, people could become citizens after living in the United States for 14 years instead of 5. After these mandated 14 years, a citizen would have the right to vote. Furthermore, deportation became a vital move due to the Alien Acts, which meant that the president has the right to remove so-called aliens for they imposed a threat to the nation's safety. On the other hand, the Sedition Acts are laws that provided forms of protection for the United States government against public opposition. This obviously enraged many people, for they were being stripped of their freedom of speech. However, these acts were made for the purpose of protection, which is pretty ironic. Now, let us speak on behalf of the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions of 1798 and 1799. As quoted, sedition laws are, in their opinion, palpable violations of the said Constitution. These resolutions resolved the conflict of the sedition laws. Very briefly, to add, the XYZ affair played a major role with America's relations with France and how the alien laws would help to protect America from French spies, who posed a threat to the young U.S.